Can you all hear me? Now you can hear me. Is that too loud? Is that okay? All right. So we're trying something new here in the back room, and I want to thank Nancy Sakadowski for coming up with the idea. Are you hearing a lot of grumbling? Will you watch that? Can you fix that? Can you all hear this grumbling? Alright, it's just me, I'm crazy. So we have this table in the back, and we have this table in the back. I'm going to turn it down. Where members in the Writers Guild can bring books, you can bring brochures of writing-related events that you think people would be interested in. And, of course, this is the first time we're doing it. It was Nancy's idea, and as soon as she mentioned it to me, I thought, that's a great idea, because part of what we want to do in this community is brag about our members' accomplishments. And there's a lot of accomplishments just in this room tonight. So we have to work out the logistics, but if you didn't get a chance to wander by that table, we don't have quite as many readers tonight, so we'll finish a little early, and if you want to wander by, and all of the books on that table, I know, are for sale. So today in my memoir class, we were talking about this reading, and a couple of people who had attended the readings for the first time this summer made some offhand comments about the reading that lingered with me all afternoon. One woman commented that the people who stand up here to read are brave. She went on to say how difficult she thought it was, not only to write something in fewer than 300 words, but to have to write something that basically fit an assignment, as she said, or a theme. And of course, those of us in the class who have been coming to these readings very quickly assured her, no, it's not difficult at all, it's easy. And we did that because we were trying to encourage her, hopefully, to get up here and read at some point. But I was thinking about it later, and I was thinking that it is difficult. Not just the 300 words, and not just the standing up and reading your work in public, but writing in general. And I thought maybe it's important to remind ourselves, maybe we don't need the reminder, but to say that it's difficult, because we talk about the importance of writing, and we talk about the necessity of writing, and sometimes we talk about the joy of writing. But the difficulty is there for all of us. And I think there's something really beautiful in the fact that it is very difficult sometimes to write, and yet we are all here, and we are all trying to write. The other part of her comment that really got me was the brave part. Those people who read are really brave, she said. And it was such a simple statement, and it struck me because it's true, and because I started thinking that most of us, not everyone, but many of us, don't have a lot of opportunities to be brave. And this is one. Another woman in the class said that after she left the reading, the last reading, she wished she had copies of the things that the people had read, because the readings all went so quickly. And she would have loved to have been able to go back and read some of the things she heard. And I didn't say anything to that, but another woman in the class said exactly what I was thinking, which was, really? You want to go back and read these things? And we weren't saying that because the writings aren't wonderful at these readings, and I look forward to seeing what people are going to do and to listening to 13 or 14 or 15 different takes on one theme or key. But it had never occurred to me, and maybe to that other woman, that after the night is all over, a stranger still cares about those words and wants to go over them. And so I had these two little reminders out of the blue today. I saw these readings through someone else's eyes, and one of those women is here, and I'm thanking her. And though I don't think I take the Writers Guild for granted, I think I forgot for a little while how rare and special these events are. And so I thank all of you for that. Now this is the time of year when, as the locals say, we get our town back. The parking meters go away. And it is also the time of year when the orange bucket comes back. For those of you who have missed me making this speech over the summer, I know you have, I will remind you that the Writers Guild is a nonprofit organization, that we stay afloat primarily 100% through members' dues each year, through payments for classes, and through your donations at readings and free rights. And so at the end of the night, we ask all of you to put a $5 donation in the orange bucket that you have to pass on your way out. We're not going to pass the bucket around. We do not want to put anyone on the spot, but we are always, always grateful for your donations. So with all of that, we are now going to have our first reader, whose book I know is back there and for sale, Chris Heidel.
Everybody hear me? Yep. Okay. I'm reading from the book tonight, and this is a little bit past a third of the way. Frenzy said, "How do you think he got in?" Probably used a set of keys.
You need to be a little louder.
Okay, sorry.
There's some downstairs noise on this side. Sorry.
Gotcha. Let's try this. Frenzy said, "How do you think he got in?" Probably used a set of keys. The locks. Wait a minute, keys? What do you mean, keys? The doors weren't jimmied. There's no sign of tampering with the keyholes. The windows were locked. The detective stared at her closely, shifting from her left foot to her right foot. There's no damage to the entry points. My guess is that he used keys. Have you lost yours recently? Misplaced them? Lost them? Not that I can... Francesca stopped, let her head loll back, groaning. What is it? A few days ago, a friend handed me my keys. Frenzy remembered Luke coming in and holding the ring from his index finger, the small silver boomerang, keychain she bought from Australia dangling. Drop these, he had asked, his voice the same baritone that had, in high school, made her stomach flutter and her knees turn to jelly. She looked at the detective. He said that he found them on the steps to my gallery. What's his friend's name? Luke Bauer. But he wouldn't do this. Why wouldn't Luke Bauer do this? Luke. His name ricocheted through her mind, conjuring up images of the past, traces of emotions, and long goodnight kisses. Luke in white, in neon and blue-green board shorts, dragging his sunfish sailboat to the ocean's edge. Luke smiling down at her from the bay water, the sun eclipsing his hair. Luke, a long-neck bottle of beer hanging from his fingers as they sat in the dark with Scylla and King, embers of the ends of their cigarettes glowing. His hair a fire and gold under the porch light as they sat on the swing, their faces inches from each other.
Irene Fick.
Can people hear me? In the 50s and 60s, my dad's car keys were my ticket to escape our boring Midwestern suburb. While our neighbors vacationed in the Ozarks or the Wisconsin Dells, my family drove to Brooklyn, New York, where we'd spend the summer in the folds of our big Italian family. How I craved the noise, the grit, the chaotic, exotic street life. Brooklyn was where I belonged. The following poem describes this feeling. It's called Brooklyn Bound. There we go. I'm 12 and car sick in the back seat. Dad's big shoulders hunch over the steering wheel of our turquoise and beige Chevy, intent on making time. Mom's stiff bouffant blocks my view. Smoke from their Marlboros drifts to the rear, forms a halo around my head. How much longer, I whine. After 900 miles, we reach the fevered streets of Flatbush, and suddenly we're buried in a fleshy throng of flapping arms, puckered lips, feigned surprise. Look who's here! I stay in the third floor walk-up over Grandpa's shoe repair, as my uncles in T-shirts play the horses, suck camels. Grandma props her chair on the front stoop, house dress sweaty with garlic, stockings rolled down to thick ankles. She slips me coins for candy at the corner store. I shadow my sassy cousins who kohl their eyes like Cleopatra, squeeze plump thighs into pants that fit like sausage casings. They mutter shit, sneak out to chug Ripple with Frankie, Tony, Vinny, skinny boys with slick black hair and full sullen lips. The Virgin Mary blesses them all, shares space on Grandma's tiny lawn with a pink flamingo, not there for color and the hint of flight. But almost no one ever leaves Brooklyn. Please let me stay, I beg, when summer ends. Even my tearful prayers to the stone-faced Virgin can't save me from the drive back to our pastel split level, to curvy, pristine streets that go nowhere, to the white bread Midwestern plain.
So our next reader was not planning to read tonight. I knew he was going to be here, and we had a couple cancellations, including me, because I do find writing very difficult. And it's Gary Hanna. He has a new collection of poems out. I said, Gary, why don't you read? You're going to be here anyway. And he said, well, I'm not sure I have anything about keys. And I said, but the key to a good reading is that I know to get readers to read even if they don't have anything on the topic. And so Gary Hanna, who may or may not be reading about keys.
Whether I had my glasses on. Going, where are they? First, a commercial. On the back table back there is a freebie. It's the latest list of the holdings of the Writers' Library. We have about 273 different literary journals and about 775 issues. If you're interested in improving your rate of acceptance, I suggest you find out what's in the journal that you're sending your work to. Anyway. This really doesn't have any flights of fancy, doesn't have any gorgeous lyric language, no exciting metaphors. You remember when you were in grade school and you had story problems for math? And you wonder, what in the world has this got to do with math? Well, this is a story poem. Anyway, it's called Premonition.
Can you speak up?
I left the door open and the keys and the padlock on the workbench outside. The old shed. I had to go back. The rain was steady, cold, pitch black. My eyes were growing older, focus not as keen, like a leg that I carry with a limp, body parts a hazard. But I had responsibilities, so I went back, just not as fast. Made it over the bridge, into town. There they were, just as I thought, on the bench, getting rest. But the door was shut. Why didn't I remember when I closed up? Details were hard to come by. So I locked up, conscience clear, and started back. When I recrossed the bridge, the cars were like shadows against the blue light. Not many out. I drove in the right lane, more carefully than usual, but it was taking time. I thought about calling home. My wife had a premonition that one night like this, I wouldn't come back. And she worried. I turned on the side road. Never saw such dark. Boundaries washed out on either side. Car ahead too close for my brights. Then it happened. Wham! Frozen for a moment in time, in its sprint, a doe, brown, looking almost timid in the headlights, probably 2 years old, caught her in the hip. A small noise, but solid impact, and it was over. Quick, gone. Not her fault. It was rutting season. I was stunned. looked around, but drove on. Didn't get out till I got home, hoping not much happened. Small dent in the bumper, tearing a connector, headlight cracked, minimal. But I knew better.
Tom Poyer.
Well, for those of you who are addicted to the antics of my father, I regret to report he's taking a breather tonight. The key I'm thinking about is simple and flat. The bow has ears like the keys you use to open sardine tins, and a long tapering blade with notches on either side. The key to a Toyota Corolla we rented at SeaTac Airport. This is how it came to be cut for me by a Toyota dealer in Crater Lake, Oregon. The Toyota came with its own key, of course, which I used that day when we drove first to Crater Lake, Oregon, and then to Klamath Falls, where we discovered there were no falls. I used it to drive another 20 miles back to a remote scenic overlook high above the Klamath River. That's the place where, after retrieving cold drinks from the cooler, I casually slammed the trunk lid shut with the key inside. I sensed disaster at that moment. 20 minutes trying unsuccessfully to get into the trunk from the back seat proved it. In pre-cell phone days, we were stranded in the middle of nowhere. It was entirely my fault. The cliff looked inviting. Miraculously, Maureen grasped not just our predicament, but my developing breakdown as well. She ignored the key and focused on bucking me up. Half an hour later, an elderly man stopped and drove us the 20 miles back to Klamath Falls. The Toyota dealer called the rental agent, got the information he needed, and cut me a new key. The old man took us back. The key turned in the trunk lock, and our troubles were over. It was a moment of felicity. Maureen had supported me. The old man, almost a deus ex machina, appeared to save us. I kept the key as a symbol of our gratitude and discovery that the world is a kinder place than we thought.
And now a first-time reader, a new Writers Guild member, and a woman who has 2 books, I believe, on that table in the back, Beth Tickner.
I'm reading from one of the books in the back, which is called Endangered Species. It's a novella and a collection of short stories in one. And the story that I've chosen tonight is called Unsolicited Manuscript. I had 2 good friends I was in regular email contact with over the years. We didn't live near each other, but we remained close. One day I told them I had started writing short stories. One said, "Oh, that's nice." The other said, Neither asked to read a story. One gradually stopped responding to my emails. The other wrote less frequently. She asked how my yoga classes were going. She wondered whether I was still enjoying Tai Chi. Has I started taking piano lessons yet? She did not ask about my stories. I did not mention them, but I was pained. A slow learner, I emailed an 8-page story to a good friend in my writers group. He called right away. "Do you have a copy of the story handy, Lil?" he asked. I did, right on top of my printer. He and I went over it paragraph by paragraph. He had some good suggestions. I got to work. I finished my second draft and sent it to him within a week. "Is it better? Worse?" I queried. Silence. I checked my email daily. Nothing. 2 weeks went by, and then a quick note. Got your draft. I'll be back to you in a day or so. Weeks went by. One day he called. We talked about this and that. He had read 2 good books. I should be sure to read them. He had watched several must-see Netflix. He recommended a play. He was reading long fairy tales to get ready for his grandchildren's visit. He planned to read to them and wanted to pick the very best story. As we were saying our goodbyes, he said, "Lil, don't worry, I haven't forgotten your story. It's on the top of my to-do list." I tried not to sound needy when I said, "Oh, that's okay. Don't concern yourself. It's not important. I can see that you're busy. Just let it go. My timing was wrong." "Oh, no," he said. "I'll get back to you on it. Count on me." I haven't heard from him since. If his email is like mine, it automatically deletes in 30 days. My story will vanish from his screen. The world is imploding in so many dreadful ways: an economic meltdown, terrorist attacks, impending pandemics, the young dying in wars, mowed down by the mentally disturbed at home, and I stew and fester over a perceived slight. Get over it, I tell myself, move on. And then I open the scab. I turn on my computer, I scan the email, nothing. I sit and stare at the screen until it turns dark. Did he hate my second draft? Did I demand too much? He didn't ask to read my story. He had no obligation to respond. Silently, I consider the bonds and boundaries of friendship. Perhaps I'll find the key.
Now we have a University of Delaware student that I don't think has read here for nearly a year, Jacqueline Disharu.
Hello everyone. I'm reading a response to Andrew Marvell's Carpe Diem poem to his coy mistress. From his coy mistress. You address me as coy mistress. For you, I will not undress. Unfortunately, we must agree that time is not agreeing with me. If you wish to love me head to toe, all you need is a ring to show. To my love you need not your key, but speak the sacred vows to me. I do propose a perfect plan. Let's walk down the aisle, hand in hand. Eternity may sound long, but we'll keep our passion strong. Marriage will be worth the fun, that will come once I'm undone. Unless you wish me in a knot, flexibility I've got. Freedom is all you must forget, to get tangled in my secret. A feverish love will burn across, once my legs do uncross. If you wed me, you will find my touch is tender, loving kind. You will find I'm not so weak, loving you, leaving you, time.
Joanne Sinsheimer.
At the end of this piece, I have a reference to Fredericks of Hollywood. And Tom says everybody knows what it is.
Everybody knows what it is.
They do? Okay. Good. The key to understanding language is intuition. Some children catch on more slowly than others. As a teenager, I still believe my aunts take me on trips for my benefit. So I'm surprised Aunt Marie is hurt that... Wait, I don't like this. Okay. As a teenager, I still believe my aunts take me on trips only for my benefit. So I'm surprised Aunt Marie is hurt that I would rather play in a tennis tournament than go to New York City with her. Fortunately, my sister tells me I'm stupid, that my aunts only invite me on trips that they would not take alone. I am dumbfounded, but I soon say to Aunt Marie, I really want to go to New York. If only we could go the week before or after the tennis tournament. Marie is pleased. When I'm 35, we run into old neighbors at a restaurant. 17 years earlier, they had given my aunts money to purchase a raincoat for me for my high school graduation. Now my aunts insist I thank this couple for the raincoat because they are sure they're positive I have never ever thanked them. I argue, but now being slightly less dumb than earlier, I approach the ex-neighbors and I say, I wore that raincoat for years, and you cannot imagine how many times I thought of you. The aunts are pleased. About 10 years later, Aunt Elsie, now in her 80s, needs support hose. We window shop at many stores in the Willow Lawn Mall that afternoon, including Frederick's of Hollywood, which displays sexy black fishnet hose on a freestanding leg. Later, at the other end of the mall, without any support hose, Elsie demands that I return to Frederick's of Hollywood to purchase 2 pairs of support hose. I say Frederick's of Hollywood does not sell support hose. Elsie responds, did they not display hose? So I walk back to Frederick's of Hollywood. I stand in front of it for a while, feeling odd, before returning to Aunt Elsie, where I say, sorry, no support hose.
Bill Kennedy.
Fun with keys, 293 words. The city of Chicago is a quilt of ethnic neighborhoods, none more tightly woven than Little Ukraine, reported to have the largest Ukrainian population outside of Kiev. Located on the west side of the city, the community is mostly residential with churches, schools, and businesses catering to local needs. Doctors, lawyers, markets, and even police that conduct business in the native tongue. Hardware stores that make house keys and garage keys. Butcher shops that specialize in farm fresh beef, pork, chicken, and turkey. Little shops that offer beautifully handcrafted needlepoint, delicate laces, nesting dolls, and numerous ethnic tchotchkes. Restaurants are few because no one can cook like Mama. Visitors dine at Lewicki's, Ukrainian village restaurant where the food is simple, wholesome, and plentiful. The galumki is a yuki steak of meat, usually beef and pork, combined with rice, wrapped in cabbage leaves and stewed in a tomato-based sauce. It can be washed down with an ice-cold luvisky, popular Ukrainian beer. Try a side order of vareniki, dumplings filled with mashed potatoes or a variety of fillings. First boiled like a bagel, and then pan-fried with onions and served with cottage cheese or sour cream. Look at my hand shape like that, that's crazy. Sunday brunch is a weekly family reunion. The kids who move to the suburbs come back in golf shirts and khakis to attend church and take parents out to eat. Brunches provide simple, solid ethnic foods, usually reserved for special occasions or holidays. There's samiki, deep-fried cottage cheese fritters, krishpiki, stuffed pork rolls, and nalesniki, delicate crepes. Baked goods are a special treat. There are a few cakes and pies, but marvelous breads, delicious pastries, and wonderful cookies. Try the pampushki. It's a traditional sweet that's been around for centuries before Dunkin' Donuts. Fried donut holes sprinkled with powdered sugar.
And now we are going to have a song from the Sargents, Victor Letnoff, and Scotty Raleigh.
Stuff doesn't have music, and I write the song. Okay, this stuff was done by Son House. I'm just gonna do the song. I'm not gonna do like do a narrative. To be really honest, but I like to be here. I like this thing. This is the thing. You know, it feels good in my soul. It's just a writer's guild thing in a lot of areas. I like it. Like that. Yeah, that's it. Like Richard Pryor.
Sue Towers.
Key. I found a shiny silver-colored key in the middle drawer of my desk at home. It was lying in the right-hand corner where I surely must have placed it. A rubber band was pulled through its hole. I must have done that so I wouldn't forget what it was for. But I have forgotten. I have forgotten what it opens. Despite its voiceless state, it can still tell me that I've lost access to something and I don't know what it is. Yet, I'm afraid to throw away the key in case I recall its importance. A few years ago, I threw away the duplicate ignition key to my car. I thought it belonged to the car my husband had sold. It didn't. When I called the dealer, I was told that it would cost me $90 to replace it because of the electronic components it contained. So, I no longer throw away keys. I look at the key again. I mentally search inside my head in case an image should suddenly emerge. I try to squeeze out a memory, an emotion, something. Nothing. My mind is as blank as the key is hard and cold. Not even the word ace that stands out in bold letters reminds me of its significance. Okay. But I can picture the man at the Ace hardware store shaping a new key for me, shaping it with his shrieking machine. He finishes in less than a minute and then places the key in a small plastic bag and hands it to me. "Can I do anything else for you?" he always says. Then I realize the key does conjure a memory. It reminds me of the kind, friendly man at the hardware store who smiled and chatted as he shaped it into what it would be.
Kelsey Dugan.
The title of the poem is Love Locked. There is a small spa town in Serbia where the hot springs run at exactly 98.6 degrees. In this town, there are many bridges, but one in particular will catch the eye. It is now known as the Bridge of Love, where a soldier and a woman would once meet to talk of true love and a future. Before a war tore them apart, before he met another to love, before she died of a broken heart. Now to protect their own love, couples from all over the world, buy padlocks from a street vendor, inscribe their names upon it, lock it to the bridge, and throw away the key.
Paul Dyer.
I feel so brave. Heat. The tropical plants springing spontaneously from the corners of my father's apartment alerted me to the problem. Our house had been chilly growing up, so I did some ciphering, algorithms, logarithms, and came to the disturbing conclusion at my father's age has always been exactly calibrated to his thermostat. He turned 87 in April. So it's always pleasant when he suggests going out for lunch. I'll scramble back into my clothing and head for his car. And that's when I remember my mother's evil grin and her cackling, "You right up front with your father." For my dad loves his Toyota Avalon, but mostly he loves those heated seats. Oh, it's pleasant for the first quarter mile, but the rest of the trip I spend contorting like an electroshock patient every time my nether parts come in contact with the thing. And I have a vision of the hidden control knob with settings like blackened or thermonuclear. I brood over lunch, hoping the seat hasn't smoked a hole in my pants. I try not to think of the ride home. After my father has gone to bed, and I'm attempting to fold myself into the crisper bin in the refrigerator, I spy his car keys on the counter. I sneak out and begin to search for that hidden control. No luck, but in the glove box I find the manual. Some mix-up at the Toyota factory. It's in Japanese. But I find a page with horrible pictures, obviously warning of what can be done to soft human tissue by these seats. Traumatized, my hands begin to tremble so badly that the page slips from the manual. As it flutters to the seat, I can read the heading in the dim light. Omaha Steak.
Marjorie Weber.
That's a tough one to follow. I met him in orchestra when I was a junior in college. I can't remember his name, Joe maybe. Tall and skinny with a shock of black hair. He had that hands in your pocket, S-curve freshman slouch, and a self-effacing sweetness that got the girls. And he played the violin like an angel. I know it's a cliche, but I kid you not. He was that cliche, a perfect match. Even so, ordinarily, I wouldn't have remembered him. The year I met him, I was a newly minted music major, having switched from English after my violin teacher invited me to make the change. I dabbled with the violin as a kid, had taken it up again at 15. I was flattered. He was a Juilliard graduate. He must know something. And I was good enough, at least as good as most of the music majors in the department. It was a long shot. I knew it, he knew it, but I thought I was up to it. That day, the semester had just started, and we were back in our practice rooms, sunny little cubicles, maybe 4 by 8 feet, big enough for a piano and a chair or two, and a music stand. You could hear people practicing, a piano, violins, a clarinet, a sax, a cacophony of scales, etudes, and snippets of concert and orchestra pieces. Yet somehow it cut through all that Yet somehow it cut through all the noise, the familiar first bars of Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto. That's what Joe was playing in that day, one of the most difficult pieces a violinist can play. We spilled out of our practice rooms and stood transfixed in the hallway near his door. The notes he played were perfect, on key, sweet and mournful. It was beautiful. And right then, as I listened, I knew, bone deep, that I would never be what he was, never play as he did. And I didn't want to be less. No, ordinarily, I wouldn't have remembered him, except that on that day, I walked away from music and never looked back.
Sarah Barnett.
This is called I Talk to Dead People. This new puppy, keeps me so busy. I didn't realize I'd spoken aloud until I heard, "What else have you got to do?" Meet my mother. She's been dead 18 years, but drops in occasionally to criticize. Those pants are too tight. When was the last time you dusted the blinds? She can be motherly. You look tired. Did you eat breakfast? Today, she's chatty. I answer the question. I don't know. Figure it out. You're not getting any younger. Wow, she didn't tell me to clean anything. I'll try a real question. Mom, how did you and Dad stay married so long? Because we fought like Sunnis and Shiites, you mean? Look, you fall in love with someone who's quiet and reliable. One day you realize that reliable is boring, and you're dying to talk to somebody. Whoa, time to change the subject. When you were my age, did you forget people's names or where you put your keys? My gold bracelet disappeared. I accused your father of stealing it. Found it in the trash. Next time that happens, you get out of the house. Call your friend. What's her name? I needed the keys. Keys, schmees. How many times have I heard her use that form of ridicule? Doctor, schmoctor, she ranted when her cardiologist ordered her to quit smoking. Listen, she says, you're always going to be looking for something. It's never where you think it is. Where'd you find the keys? In the trash. I hear a sympathetic snort. I wish I could tell you it gets easier. Remember what I said. I'm not getting any younger. That other thing you want to ask me about, she says. She pauses, so I'll know this is important. Don't be afraid. It's like closing one door and opening another. Now I can almost see her green eyes flash with glee. Just be sure you have your keys.
So that is our reading for tonight. The theme for next month is Never Again. Yeah. Don't forget to check out the books on the back table and to take a look at that orange bucket. Thank you so much.